Today I've been abandoned by my cats. There's nobody sitting here. And the one who was pestering me yesterday is gone. Why? Because we've been out for at least 2 hours, maybe a little bit more, to the gym and then shopping, probably 2.5 hours, grocery shopping. And I guess they just needed to be in the other room with us. Well, my wife's in there right now taking care of them. Today's reading is kind of interesting. It's called Portal to Change. I hear the word portal because I've read a lot of science fiction and science fantasy and real science. And I've always got to think of portals like portals to other dimensions. And in a sense, these are portals to other dimensions, but they're not like somewhere out there. They're in here. So there is a connection. The first quote is from Eric Butterworth, and I've mentioned before, he was a very well-known New Thought writer in the 20th century. Spiritual Economics, he wrote quite a lot of books. Probably Spiritual Economics is his best-known one. And I've recommended it before, I recommend it again. And on page 28, he says, "But if you want to change your life, you will have to alter your thoughts. But if you want to change your life, you will have to alter your thoughts." Change your thinking, change your life is another way of expressing it. I drive down a road called Gosling to go to Creative Life Spiritual Center on Sundays, or whenever else I go down there. And there used to be a storage place right by railroad tracks, which is probably about 4 minutes, depending on the traffic light, between there and Creative Life Spiritual Center. And you always used to have these rolling signs. And one of the ones it was always putting up was, change your thinking, change your life. Ernest Holmes says, "An inner light shines forth and it frees me from the bonds of false belief. An inner light shines forth and frees me from the bonds of false belief." So in other words, when I connect with my true self, then that begins to free me from any false beliefs that I might have. More or less in this context, really, limiting beliefs about ourselves, about others, about the planet. Today's reading actually is about the planet. And Reverend John starts off by saying, historically, our planet, oh, by the way, did I mention that was in the Science of Mind textbook on page 508, paragraph 2. And continuing on with what Reverend Joanne was saying, historically, our planet experiences heating and cooling phases. This is not a new phenomenon. What is new is the accelerated rate at which the warming is taking place. Carbon dioxide, CO2, or the emissions of carbon dioxide, CO2, which is what we're talking about, which trap heat in the atmosphere, cause temperatures to rise. And they are significantly higher than they have been in the past 800,000 years. In the life of the planet, it's not a huge change. It is a chunk, but it's not like half or anything, but it is significant. Scientists didn't begin studying this in earnest until the 1970s. Prior to that, people were largely unaware of the impact their technology and practices had on the earth. And with awareness, change is happening. Some people would say happening slowly. Other people deny it's necessary. But I think most of us deep down, some of us up here and other people deep down know that the planet is warming. The state of Colorado offers a case in point. The state government is working with breweries to capture the CO2 produced during fermentation. They're doing this rather than releasing it into the atmosphere. And this is another good part about this. That CO2 then goes to another business and they use it in their processes. To accelerate the idea of reuse, the X Prize Foundation created a monetary incentive to challenge innovators to discover new ways to convert CO2 emissions to everyday products, such as watches, pens, and so forth. Quote, "We need to develop a new carbon economy, a new way of seeing things at the end of the day," unquote. And this is engineering professor Elisa Park, and she was speaking there to the Washington Post. Awareness is the portal to change. More about this. This is why our introspection and spiritual study are so vital to growth. They help us unearth our hidden beliefs and focus our thought patterns. Awareness of the beliefs that create our experiences affords us the opportunity to change those beliefs that do not serve us. We can't make changes if we're unaware there's an issue. The last paragraph to me is where the key to this whole thing is. The rest of it's interesting to know. Well, most of us know the planet's warming. Then it's interesting to know that people are actually working on reducing that and actually giving examples of reducing the CO2 in the atmosphere. The spiritual message here is all contained in that last paragraph, and that's awareness is the portal to change. If there was one word that you could use that would sum up a spiritual life, it will be this one, awareness. Why? Because when you live your life in awareness, you can do something about it. Whatever it is, on every level of life. So for instance, I'm in Toastmasters. Somebody gives a speech, someone evaluates them right away, and that's good. They get immediate feedback. Well, at the same meeting, there's usually a little bit of stuff in between, but during that same meeting, they get feedback about their speech. The evaluator encourages them to continue doing what's good, what's helping, but also gives them ideas about how they can improve their speeches. But what is even better, I think, is this, that almost all the speeches are recorded. And each speaker is given the opportunity to review their speeches. And there's no greater teacher, I don't think, than watching what you're doing with your mentor. So if you're watching what you're doing with your mentor, you can actually make corrections much easier because why? You can see them. You know, it really brings to your awareness what you're doing. Because oftentimes we get into habits of thought, habits of acting, habits of giving speeches. And some of the habits are distracting and some of them are really good to actually enhance the speech. And when you see it in person, you see yourself speaking and your mentor's there to help you. It really brings into awareness what you're doing. And because it does that, it allows you to make corrections the next time you give a speech. For instance, I know I blank a lot. And I've seen myself on my recordings here, and I'm trying to do something about it. It's a little bit difficult because my eyes do tear fairly easily. So I'm tempted to blank probably more than most people. So next time you watch me, you're going to watch me blinking. Why? Because I brought it into your awareness. And as I've mentioned quite a few times before, there's a mechanism at the bottom of our brain that's responsible for all this. And it's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS for short. And it's a gatekeeper, and its job is to filter out what it thinks is unimportant to us. But once things are brought to its attention, it starts to realize that that's important, and it lets that information go through to you. So whether it's what I'm talking about now, which is from a spread a living, everyday living perspective to what you're doing, and having either yourself watch a movie of yourself or have a mentor point out or an evaluator point out, gradually the reticular activating system starts to realize that's important, and it filters it through. And I've given examples again in the past are when a couple's about to have a baby, they'll start to see things, or planning to have a baby, or even, yes, they're in the process of having one. They will start to see things related to babies everywhere because the reticular activating system in each of them knows that's important to let the information through. If I'm getting a little bit too scientific, I apologize. Bottom line is this, that when we live our life in awareness, we have the opportunity to do something about the things that aren't working as well as they ought to do. That, to me, is the bottom line. The affirmation, I changed the darn thing because I thought it's too long. I mentioned before, I believe affirmations should be fairly short. And if they are, you'll probably use them. If they're long and rambling, you probably won't use them. I won't if they're too long and rambling, because it's not an affirmation anymore. It's something I'm reading. So I split this into two. I take the time for introspection to increase my awareness of hidden and limiting beliefs. And you can simplify that even more if you want. I take the time for introspection to increase my awareness of hidden and limiting beliefs. And then the second part is, I can change my beliefs to life-affirming ones that propel me forward on my spiritual journey. I can change my beliefs to life-affirming ones that propel me forward on my spiritual journey. You could even change it more by saying, I change my beliefs to life-affirming ones. Leave out the can, because that's a more positive statement. So I change my beliefs to life-affirming ones that propel me forward on my spiritual journey. Take your pick, use your own affirmation. It's always really good to see everybody. And I'm getting back onto the screen where I can actually see myself, because when I'm reading, I can't. The text is in the way. So I love doing these readings. Reverend Lisa is still available at 9 o'clock every morning, and she'll be available tomorrow morning, even though it's Sunday, at 9 o'clock. Our service, of course, will be tomorrow at 11. You can always reach us on our Facebook channel. You can reach us on our YouTube channel. You can reach me on my own personal channel, David Dewhurst. There's lots of different ways. You can reach me on Instagram because it's broadcast there, and it's broadcast to my business channels as well. So it's always great to be able to impart information to people. Why? Because I get to learn myself, and I get to be reminded, David, change your thinking, change your life. Right? So until next time, please take care of yourselves. Namaste. Au revoir. Until we meet again.